Hi, I'm Riva Dean and I'm the Northwest Room Librarian for Spokane Public Library. A lot of you probably have family papers and photographs that you've inherited and you just don't know how to store them or take care of them. What I want to do today is give you some really basic tips on how to do that. If you have something that needs repair, I really advise that you find a professional conservator, and I'll tell you how you can do that. And I'll also tell you how you can find the supplies that you'll need. I'll also spend a lot of time telling you things that you should not do, because you can do more damage than good. But it's a fun project, especially if you're stuck at home right now. So let's get started. The first rule of archives is to never do anything that you can't undo. Much like a doctor should do no harm, when you're handling photographs and papers, there are a lot of things that people do that actually are more harmful than doing nothing. So don't use adhesives, don't let anything have prolonged sunlight, and never use ink. And of course, don't do anything permanent like trimming your original photographs. For the overall storage of your collection, be aware of your surroundings. Spokane has a generally good climate, unlike the heat and humidity you might find in other places. The fluctuations in temperature and humidity can be a problem. Look around where you are storing your items. Are you near a hot water heater? Is it in a hot attic? Ideally, an interior closet is a good place, but for home storage, you do the best that you can. Just be aware of possible hazards. Before you can decide on the materials to use for individual storage, you need to identify your materials. There are different kinds of enclosures depending on what you have. If you have any 19th century photographs, these can be a little tricky to identify, and I'll give you some information on how to figure it out. You can also contact me if you have any questions, though it can be difficult without seeing the actual item. Also, if you have any negatives from the early 20th century, you will want to check to see if they are nitrate negatives. If you have nitrate negatives, you will want to duplicate them and then get rid of the originals in a safe way. They are hazardous materials and are extremely flammable, especially if you have movie film. That's an example of inherent vice. The materials are going to deteriorate no matter what you do, so you want to duplicate the original. As a general rule, you want to use acid-free, chemically neutral boxes and folders. I'll give you the names of some vendors of archival supplies at the end, and you might want to spend some time looking through their websites or catalogs to determine what's best for you. As you can see, there are different sizes of folders and boxes, and what you want to do is make sure that you don't have things too tight, too packed in there, and you don't want to have them too loose because they'll slump. So you want to find the right size for what you have. I always like to mention newspaper clippings because everyone has them. This is another example of inherent vice. Newspapers are extremely acidic and will damage the materials near them. You've probably all seen that where someone enclosed a newspaper clipping in a letter and then the letter is stained. Think about why you're keeping the original. You're almost always better off copying it onto acid-free paper to save the information. For photographs, the best storage is polyester. The brand name is Mylar, but you don't have to store photos in clear Mylar. That's the best thing for handling, but as long as you use acid-free storage materials, you'll be fine. What you want to look for are things that pass the photographic activity test, and that means the enclosure won't react with the photos. General tips on handling are to have a clear, clean work area. If you're working with photos, you'll need some white cotton gloves. The oils from your hands can damage the photos. I don't recommend wearing gloves when handling papers. You can do more damage, but just have clean hands. Here are some more things to avoid. You'll notice that I'm telling you more things to not do than to do. Paper clips, rubber bands, more adhesives, and acidic paper. If you have those old photo albums with black paper, what you want to do is interleave the pages with buffered tissue paper. You don't want to take apart the photo albums because albums give you the great context, but the paper is damaging. Another couple of items that I always like to mention because everyone has them are these magnetic photo albums and Post-its. A lot of people think Post-its are fine because they can just remove them, but they actually leave a residue as soon as you put them on anything, and they should never be put on anything that you want to keep. I just want to mention digitization briefly. Digitization is great, but remember that it's for access, not preservation. Never discard your originals. You'll have to decide if you want to do the scanning yourself or send them out. There are places that can do the scanning for you, and it will save you a lot of time. Think about data migration, meaning that if you have your photos saved in one format, you may not be able to open that format years from now. So keep upgrading before they become unreadable. Here are a few places to get more information. If you want to find a conservator, the American Institute for Conservation has a website where you can find someone in your area depending on the material. That site also has information on handling. The New York Public Library site has a great resource on identifying old photos, and the NEDCC has great information on anything, especially on how to take care of different types of materials. These are all great resources. Here are some vendors of archival supplies. You don't want to buy from a place just because it says archival. It doesn't mean anything, but these are places that you can trust. Light impressions and exposures are probably best for home collections, but I do recommend looking through their catalogs and websites, and you'll probably find things that you didn't know existed. Finally, feel free to contact me with any questions. I'll do the best that I can. These archival supplies can be expensive and it's a time-consuming project, but remember that you are saving these materials for future generations. So good luck with your project.